my name is Julie, and today I want to talk about some of the books I want to read this summer. Somehow we have gotten over halfway through the year, and that means it's time for another TBR. I've been doing a lot of my quarterly planning, and I'm already starting to get the panic of, I'm not gonna get to read everything I wanted to read this year, but let's just take a breath and talk about the things that we can read. Let's just get right into it. I'm gonna start off, as always, with the books that I am reading for the different challenges I'm doing. So I have 3 monthly challenges that I do. There is the Buzzword and the Buzz Cover Challenge, both of them created by Books and Lala. I will leave the announcement video linked down below. There is a word you have to find in a title to read every month, and something you have to find on the cover or a style of cover every month. And then I also do a monthly bingo board that I'm not good at updating on time. Every single month we are doing a different group of letters of the alphabet that you have to have the title start with. So in an ideal situation, I combine enough to maybe only have to have 2 books on my TBR every single month that are added. For July, the Buzzword Challenge is to read a book that has a occupation in the title. And I actually found a book that technically has 2 occupations in the title, and that is The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. This is one of my most anticipated books of the year. Certainly my most anticipated book of the year by an author I've never read from before. This is a fantasy that has been very highly rated. This is a Chinese-inspired fantasy that is about a young woman who, her family is starving, and in order to save them, she ends up giving herself to be a concubine of a violent prince. But there is war incoming, and she ends up getting tangled in the political machinations going on. And the magic in this world has to do with writing or poetry, and women are not allowed to write or do poetry. And I've heard this is dark. This is just like the type of standalone fantasy I would love to see more of, so I'm just really excited for this one. I don't know what else to say. If this is not at least a 4.5, I really won't know what to do with myself. This is one that I wanted to read in the last couple months just to give myself like a freebie. This is gonna be a good book. But because I realized it fit the buzzword, I ended up pushing it back further than I wanted to, so I'm gonna get to this as soon as physically possible. Then for the July cover challenge, we have a book with a metallic cover, and I asked around to see if this counted, and people did think it counted. That is The Incandescent by Emily Tesh. We have this metallic phoenix on the cover. This is a academia fantasy, but instead of the main character being a student, she's actually a teacher. We follow Dr. Walden, who is a professor. She teaches invocation, which means that she summons demons. And she also has some sort of secret related to a phoenix tattoo she has on her body. This is an author that I've been interested in for a little bit now. I am excited to finally get to this one. And then for July's letter challenge, we are reading books that start with M or N, which just happened to perfectly work out for me because I am doing my Hunger Games reread, and guess what landed in July? Mockingjay. I am currently doing a series in which I am rereading the entire trilogy for the first time since I was 11 years old, and then I'm going to read the prequels for the very first time. I read the book, give you all my fun thoughts as well as literary analysis. How literary is my analysis? Subject to opinion. But I also watch the movie and I talk about differences between the books and the movies, which is going to be a tall order with Mockingjay because of course there are 2 movies, so I'm really going to try to edit that bit down and not talk about it as much per minute of film. But this is, of course, the 3rd and final book in the original Hunger Games trilogy. This is most people's least favorite book in the series, but most people have their favorite book be Catching Fire. So I'm really interested to see what my opinion of this book is going to be, if I'm going to like it as much as the others, considering that I actually preferred the Hunger Games to Catching Fire. On to August. The buzzword and buzz cover prompt I was able to pick 1 book for. The buzzword is societies and groups, and the buzz cover is books that are designed to look like they have damage on the cover. And for that, I'm going to be reading The Jane Austen Society by Natalie Jenner. As you can see, there's kind of like a page has been wrinkled that is part of the design. You can see it on the back as well. This is a historical fiction that takes place just after World War II in the town that Jane Austen lived in, as we have a bunch of people who have been affected by the war who are coming together and bonding over Jane Austen. This has been on my radar for a while. I I only actually have it and have planned to read it because I found this in a little free library a bit ago. And this is a book that I have debated whether I want to just give back to a little free library for a long time. So, and I did sample the first chapter of this and wasn't totally blown away by this. So I'm hoping that this is at least like an easy, fun book to get through, even if it's not stellar to me. I'm hoping that this is not absolutely too cheesy for me. Either way, I'll be getting it off of my TBR and killing two birds with one stone. Two birds as in two challenges, but then the extra goal that I had of getting rid of books like that. So 3 birds with one stone. Then the August letters are O and P, and so I'm going to be reading the only O on my physical TBR, and that is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This is a romance book that is about two people who have limb differences. They meet at a party, they hit it off, they have a one-night stand, they end up pregnant, and they decide they are going to raise the baby together as friends, but of course they're not going to stay that way. My friend Katie, who is one of the only people that I trust with romance recommendations, has really loved this one and wanted me to read it. She actually bought this one for me for my birthday last year, so I absolutely have to get to this. And I am trying to get through my entire romance TBR before I let myself buy any more, so this will be checking off that. I just have really high hopes for this one because of the way that people have talked about it. But if it's not for me, that's one less series I have on my TBR, so win-win, which is funny because the main character's name is Win. On to September. The September buzzword is me, my, mine, all of those words. And I'm not 100% locked into this, but I'm pretty sure I am going to be reading My Friends by Frederick Bachman. This is a book that I got from Book of the Month last year that I've been really wanting to read, and I especially want to read during the warm months. I think the pool should still be open in September. It should still be pool weather. I really wanted to read this while it was nice and sunny out because of the way it looks. The synopsis of this book is really vague, but I just generally really enjoy Frederick Bachman. This has to do with a group of teenage friends who are bonding at this abandoned pier, and also a girl named Louisa who wants to be an artist who ends up finding a painting and is going on a road trip to try to figure out how the painting came to be and how it came to be in her possession. Frederick Bachman is an author I really trust, and also because of the Unf Our Shelves challenges I'm doing, I need to read this before I can get the Frederick Bachman book I need to read a different one of his that I own. I might read this. The alternative is that I get from the library, My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry, also by Frederick Bachman, because I own Britt Marie Was Here and I'm told that I need to read this before I read that. So it just depends if I want to own that book or not. We'll see which one of his books I end up picking up for this prompt. Then the September Buzz Cover Challenge is Fire and Smoke, and the letters for September are Q and R. So I am going to be reading Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. This cover, I believe these are like pillars of smoke in the background here, but the other original cover of this has fire all over it, so I'm definitely counting it for this prompt. This is the second book in the Gentleman Bastards series, which is supposed to be 6 books, but it's only been 3 books for a really long time. So why have I picked it up? Great question. I read The Lies of Locke Lamora a couple years ago, back when my book club was running, when we were reading books about thieves and such, and I really enjoyed that book. I thought it was so much fun. It is funny and dark and has some like the most creative violence I've ever read, and I do love these covers, but this looks too YA for the content in this book, in my opinion. But we follow Locke Lamora, who is an incredible thief. He is running a con in the first book. And this series is not quite as sequential as most fantasy series are, but it's also not quite a companion series. All I know about this book is that it is running another con, and this time it's going to take place on pirate ships. So I am excited to get to this one. Hopefully this will be a fun, easy one for me to get through, even though the print is literally the tiniest I've ever seen. What is this, the Bible? Then I have a few more books from my 20 books I need to read in 2026 that I have decided I am going to read in this quarter. One of those is one of my 4 TBR vets. I decide to pick 4 at the beginning of the year, make sure I read one of them every quarter. I originally had a different Stephen King book on my list, but I decided to swap to a different one that I got at the exact same time. It's fulfilling the same brief for me. So I'm going to be reading Lisey's Story by Stephen King, of course. This is what I've heard as his take on a romance novel. It is about Lisi, whose husband of many, many years was a very famous author, won all these major literary awards, and she is going through his stuff. And while she is doing that, she is reminiscing on their life together. And on top of that, she also finds that there's like a fantasy world that he came up with or he visited or something, and she's trying to investigate what's up with that. Everything that I've heard about this book really intrigues me, even though it has kind of a low average rating, so we'll see what I think of this one. And another one of my 2026 that I definitely need to get to is Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. Have I put this on multiple TBRs? Probably. I just had to push this one back because I have not had the time. But this is the third book in the second Mistborn series that is set in like an industrial time. And if you're living under a rock, Mistborn is a fantasy series that is about people who, when they ingest metals, can get different superpowers. And at this point in the world's evolution, there are like multiple different types of magic that have been around long enough that people have intermingled and people now have multiple types of magic that they can do. I have heard that this book gets really deeply emotional. Honestly, the last book I was pretty let down by after really enjoying The Ally of Law, and it's also been a long time, so I definitely need to refresh myself on the details of the book so I get the full impact of this one. I really hope that this one is just as good as everyone has been saying. So I think those are all the books that I really need to read, and now we're going into the want territory. One book that I have out from the library right now and I am waiting on my audiobook hold so I can immersive read is The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. This book is chunky as hell. This is the second book in the Bloodsworn saga, which everyone and their mom adores. I thought book one was okay, but I've heard enough people say that it really takes off during book two that I'm willing to give this one a shot. And if I don't want to finish it, I mean, I'm going to make myself finish it. Is there a world in which I don't make myself finish this? I don't know. But this is a Norse-inspired fantasy. It's a trilogy. The first book, The Shadow of the Gods, follows a couple of different perspectives. We follow someone who has recently been freed from slavery. We follow someone who is a princess who is trying to make her own name for herself. And then we also have a mother whose young son was kidnapped, and all of them have all these disparate plot lines, and they're all convening on this place that was the graveyard of the gods. I personally did not connect to the characters hardly at all, and my friend who read it at the same time as me thought the same thing, so we'll see if I end up getting invested in this one. Considering how long I have been away, I doubt it, and maybe I just need to treat series differently than I do, but this is my chance to really enjoy the series, and I really, really hope that I do. I mentioned earlier that I want to read summary books during the summer, and also that I'm trying to get through my romance TBR, so this has been on so many TBRs, but I'd really like to get to Happy Place by Emily Henry, just to get this out of here. I have read, except for Great Big Beautiful Life and this one, I've read all of Emily Henry's contemporary romance novels. There's only one of them that I thought that was particularly special, and I bought this one directly after loving that one, and then I've read all her other ones, and have never been quite as blown away as I was with the first one that I read, which was People We Meet on Vacation. This is about a couple who have been together forever, and they're also part of the same friend group, and their friend group are going on their annual vacation. The two of them have actually broken up recently, so they are pretending that they are still dating while on vacation with their friends to try to not burst everyone's bubble. Before Great Big Beautiful Life came out, this seemed to be, by consensus, her least loved book, so I really hope I am in the minority and this one blows me away, because I seem to be in the minority about her other books. I also have jam-packed my TBR with so much sci-fi and fantasy that I really want to make sure that I am giving myself some breathing room and reading some general fiction that I think I'm really in the mood for. And one that I'm in the mood for is Blue Sisters by Coco Malors. This is a general fiction that is about a family with 4 sisters, except one of them has recently passed away and the 3 of them are coming together again after her death. I read the first chapter of this in a recent video, and this was the first chapter that absolutely blew me away. I love the writing style. It gave me Sally Rooney vibes, and I think that this could really be an absolute favorite of mine. It's just, sometimes you can tell the writing style from the very opening of a book is totally going to be for you, and that worked with me. So I have high hopes for this one, so hopefully I can just sprinkle this easy treat in there for me. I currently have I, Medusa by Ayana Gray on hold at the library, and it should be coming in relatively soon. This is a retelling of Medusa, as one would imagine. This is one of the most read fantasy books of the current Goodreads Choice Awards cycle, so I'd like to give this one a shot. Our main character is Medusa, or Medi, as she is called in this. I think she is portrayed as being Black in this book, and I'm curious to see what direction this decides to take. Is this going to take the path of she was assaulted or it was consensual? Is it going to take the path of her goddess betrayed her or her goddess supported her? I'm really curious to see what this interpretation is going to be. I love Greek mythology, but Greek myth retellings to me are very hit or miss, so I hope I'm in the good camp for this one. Another book I have on hold is Perfect Victims. This is a nonfiction that is about Palestine. This is a book that I've seen a couple other people read that I think is important for me to read personally. A lot of the really popular books that are talking about Palestine are from non-Palestinian voices, and this one is from a Palestinian voice. And to my understanding, this is a book about how, in order to be taken as human by other people, the Palestinian people are being forced to portray themselves as perfect victims. They're not allowed to be human beings with flaws. This is something that we can see in a lot of different places when people are being targeted, that the dominant group does not need to prove themselves in order to be seen as someone who has been taken advantage of, but in groups that are disadvantaged, that is not the same thing. Hopefully I get along with the audiobook. If not, I'll try to get a physical or ebook. And then there is a couple of new releases that I'm super excited for this quarter, but I know for sure I am going to purchase and read one of them, and that is Sea of Charms. This is the third book in the Spell Shop series. The Spell Shop is my favorite cozy fantasy of all time. I think it's just perfect. The Enchanted Greenhouse I thought was really fun, and I am really curious about this character. Our main character in this one is someone who mans a boat and is taking supplies back and forth, and the same inciting incident of all of these books happens where the capital of the empire is besieged, and she is actually taking refugees back and forth to different places. And there is a man who is a musician who she ends up saving, and the two of them are going to have some sort of relationship. I really enjoy how Sarah Beth Durst combines the more serious subject matter of her books with the coziness, and how sort of the solution to a lot of the problems in her books is community working together and that sort of thing. It's a sweet book that also doesn't ignore bad things that are happening, which I think is perfect for me. So I hope that this one is one that I like just as much as book one. Otherwise, a couple more releases that I really want to get to, but I don't know if I'm gonna have time to read in the quarter. A Trade of Blood, the third book in the Shadow of the Leviathan series. Yet another Anna and Din mystery. This is taking place in a fantasy world where the magic is like biologic and has to do with like plants and algae and bacteria and stuff like that. People can put grafts on their body to essentially give themselves superpowers. Our main character is a Watson character who has the ability to have perfect recall because of those grafts. They are working for someone who is a detective, and each of these books is a different mystery. I thought book one was just okay. Book two, I actually was pretty impressed by, so I'm hoping that that continues into book three. And my number one most anticipated book of the year is John Green's Hollywood Ending, which I believe is coming out on September 3rd. This is John Green's adult fiction debut, and I have been so excited for it. I've really been loving what he's been saying about it. It is about a press junket for a film that is about the last years of Andy Warhol's life and the sudden changes in the lives of the two young actors who are in the movie. And it is talking about fame, and it is interesting because Andy Warhol is someone who talked about fame a lot. He is the person who came up with the idea of everyone having their 15 minutes of fame. I would love to read this as soon as it comes out. Is that going to happen? I'm not sure. And if it doesn't, it can work for a buzzword in quarter four. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I will also be reading The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. Again, continuing on with my Hunger Games series. I will be reading this in September, and so you should be getting a vlog about this book and the movie at the end of September or early October. I think that's all the books that I have to talk to you about today. I know that there is going to be so much more that I'm reading. I just haven't made 100% set plans, especially because my August vlog has been decided, but what I'm going to be reading in that video has not been decided yet. Please let me know if you've read any of these books. Which of them are you super excited for me to read? If you have any plans for this quarter of what you're going to be reading, especially for the buzzword challenge, I would love to know. And if you don't have anything else to say, why not leave me a wolf emoji in honor of the hunger of the gods? But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to find me anywhere or would like to use any of the bookish services that I do, you can find me at the links in the description. And if you'd like to continue watching my videos, I have so much fun stuff coming this quarter, so you should hit subscribe. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.